the Captain's Construction event was very useful for a number of reasons, and I think the main one is that it got together the major stakeholders, I think probably for the first time in this type of forum. And what attracted Standard Bank to it was very much just that. It's the opportunity to get dialogue between stakeholders who actually usually are talking to each other one-on-one, but they're never actually together in the same place. So I think we were sort of feeding our way into how does this sort of format work, but I think it did. My impression for the day was that actually we had some extremely good panelists and looking at the trends in construction in Africa to what makes a good or bad PPP if you're trying to bid for it from the private sector, to how are we trying to develop localization and build value to the economy, and then how do we look at developing strategic transport corridors across Southern Africa. All these things are very deep, rich opportunities for the entire construction sector.
These captains of construction and government leaders and senior civil servants, they meet very occasionally and often over the phone or in a structured meeting one-on-one. And suddenly now they're not under the pressure of sitting in the office and getting calls coming in, but they sit and they get to know the other person. They can look into the other person's eyes and start exchanging ideas with credibility, because you can look at the other person. This is not propaganda. This is not spin that the spin doctor sent me. This is the guy. This is the woman who does this stuff. And government needs to, I think it's been a shortcoming of this government, to not meet with the captains of construction and the other captains of industry and tap their brains and get to know them as people. So there's a situation of trust that needs to develop. There has been a deficiency, a trust deficiency in South Africa between government and industry, also between government and the people. This is the kind of place where you rebuild that trust, and afterwards a captain of construction can pick up the phone to the MEC and say, hey, remember, we had a meal together, we had a chat together the other day. Can I come over and can we talk some real business? To break those kind of barriers and to stimulate. I think 10 heads together create a more creative environment than 10 individual heads all on their own. And this is what you have. You have a bit of a jamming session that people stimulate each other and think of new things and change their minds slightly on some things. And that's the advantage of getting the captains of construction in one room in a relaxed atmosphere.
I quite enjoyed the forum. In fact, forums such as these, I believe, are very, very necessary for industry leadership to come together, look at what problems we have, and try and work out solutions. I've been saying this for many, many years. Unfortunately, part of our problem as leaders is that we delegate the responsibility to attend to the problems of the industry to our juniors. And it was said today that we need to be talking to one another at our level, at CEO level. And some of the CEOs who are not here today will know that I keep saying to them, part of our biggest problem is that we're not talking and then going together as one force, to government especially, for them to hear us. Because the huge problem we have is that probably government is listening to individuals such as myself, and it's not helping the cause.
The captains of construction today, I think it was an interesting debate. I think there's a lot of topics that we have discussed, but I think some of those topics need to be discussed in more depth to get into some sort of action. I think they were discussed at a very high level today.
I mean, you have people there who are in charge of big companies who are actually influence decisions. And if you can just localize it, and I can use that word because that's what I'm doing these days, is you have a person in a construction company who then bids for a tender, but that person determines what local content should be used. So that's a very important person, be it a CEO or a procurement manager. So they have a very important job to say, well, I can localize a bit more than I should because it benefits South Africa, for instance. So they're very important people, and they may not realize it, but actually they make very, very big decisions on our behalf, actually.